All right, let's talk about something we've all struggled with, the dreaded cold email. You're staring at a blank screen, trying to figure out how to get a total stranger to not just open your email, but to actually read it and, dare I say it, reply. Well, you're in exactly the right place. We're about to dive into the formulas that can take your emails from totally ignored to completely irresistible.
So let's just get right to it. Why do so many cold emails, probably the vast majority, end up in the trash folder? I mean, you spend all this time trying to get the message just right, you finally hit send, and then crickets. It is so frustrating. You might think it's your offer or maybe your subject line wasn't catchy enough, but the real reason is often way, way simpler.
The answer? It's that they don't follow a formula. That's it. That's the single biggest mistake. Most people just kind of wing it. They write from the gut and just hope for the best. But here's the secret. The best cold emails aren't some kind of magic. They're basically a form of engineering. They follow these specific, repeatable structures that are designed to lead a reader from, "Who are you?" to, "Okay, I'm interested."
And this is where all those unstructured, wing-it emails end up, the digital graveyard, a wasteland of deleted messages and, honestly, a ton of missed opportunities. But your emails, they don't have to end up here. Now, you might be thinking, okay, just give me the one perfect template to copy-paste. But the real power lies in something much more flexible. See, the goal isn't to find one magic bullet. The goal is to build a toolkit. Instead of having just one rigid template for every situation, we're going to arm you with a whole set of different strategic formulas. Each one is perfect for a different kind of audience, a different situation, a different goal. So let's open up that toolkit and see what's inside.
Okay, our first strategy is all about getting into people's heads. In a good way. We're going to leverage a little human psychology. These formulas work so well because they tap into the basic, fundamental ways our brains are wired to make decisions, which often boils down to two things: avoiding pain or seeking pleasure. Let's start with a really powerful one that focuses on pain.
Meet the PAS formula. It stands for Problem, Agitate, Solve. The reason this thing is so effective is because it leans into a powerful psychological quirk called loss aversion. Basically, studies show that the pain of losing something feels about twice as strong as the pleasure of gaining that exact same thing. PAS uses that to its advantage.
And here's how it works. It's a simple 1, 2, 3 punch. First, you call out a real problem, a genuine sore point your prospect has. Then, and this is the absolute key, you don't just mention it, you agitate it. You pour a little salt in the wound, really hammering home how bad that problem is. And only then, once they're feeling that pain, do you swoop in with your solution, positioned as the hero that saves the day.
Oh, this line right here is a masterclass in that agitate step. It doesn't just say buying email lists can be ineffective. No, it goes right for the gut. It makes you remember that sinking feeling of wasting money on a bad list. It makes the problem feel personal and urgent, and that's what makes people desperate for your solution.
But what if you don't want to focus on the negative? What if you're more of an optimist? Well, that's where a formula like BAB comes in. Before, after, bridge. It's basically the mirror image of PAS. Instead of leveraging the fear of loss, it taps into our desire for gain. You paint this amazing picture of a better future. That's the after. And then you show how your product is the bridge to get them there. It's really just two sides of the same psychological coin.
All right, let's totally switch gears. Our second strategy is a complete 180. We're calling it the brevity blitz, because let's be real, in a world where everyone's inbox is overflowing, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just respect their time and get straight to the point.
And the undisputed champion of this strategy is the BBB formula: brief, blunt, and basic. This is the art of subtraction. You go through your draft and you just cut out every single word that isn't absolutely essential. No fluffy intros, no beating around the bush, just pure, concentrated value.
40. Get this, 40. That's the magic number here. The example that this whole idea is based on is a perfect cold email that is just 40 words long. Think about that for a second. In the time it takes someone to decide if they even want to read your email, they've already finished it. It's almost impossible not to read something that short.
So the rules here are super simple, right? Keep it ridiculously short, be direct, use simple language, just lay out what you offer, why it's useful, and what you want them to do next. It's like a surgical strike, not a long, drawn-out campaign. For busy people, this is an absolute game changer.
Okay, for our third and final strategy, we're taking another sharp turn.
We've talked about psychology, we've talked about speed, now let's talk about narrative. The storytelling hook is all about tapping into one of the oldest and most powerful human instincts we have, our absolute love for a good story.
And for this, we use the SSS formula: star, story, solution. Here's the thing, facts and figures are easy to forget, but stories stick with us. This formula helps you frame your entire pitch not as a list of features, but as a memorable little narrative that connects with people on a different level. And building this little story is actually really simple. First, you introduce your star. This could be your company, it could be the prospect themselves, or it could even be your product. Next, you create the story, which is really just the challenge or the problem that your star is up against. And finally, you reveal the solution, the thing that helps the star win. It's a classic story arc, shrunk down into just a few sentences.
Now, this isn't about writing a novel or being overly dramatic. It's really about empathy. By telling a story they can relate to, you're not just selling something, you're showing them that you truly understand their struggle. You're making an emotional connection, and that makes your solution feel less like a sales pitch and more like a shared victory.
Okay, so we've looked at psychological triggers, we've looked at radical brevity, and we've talked about the power of a good story. So that brings us to the most important question of all. How do you know which one of these tools to pull out of your new toolkit and when?
Well, this little chart here is basically your cheat sheet. You want to use a psychological trigger like PASS or BAB when you've done your research and you have some real insight into your prospects' specific pains or their biggest desires. You go for the brevity blitz with something like BBB when you're emailing a CEO or anyone else who's incredibly busy and you need to respect their time. And finally, you pull out a storytelling hook when your product or solution is maybe a little complex and a quick story can make its value click instantly.
And there you have it. You're no longer just staring at a blank page wondering where to start. You're now standing in front of a toolkit, packed with proven, powerful strategies for any situation. You know how to tap into pain, pleasure, brevity, and storytelling. So the only question left is the one right there on your screen. Which tool are you going to use first?